In this session, we'll take a global view. How many of you have used an operating system? Just like each device has an operating system, this world is like an operating system. It will be good to have an understanding of how this world operates. What aspects of your life are globalized?
Fashion.
Okay.
Second is information/news. Third is education. Fourth is socializing.
Something left? ये सभी कुछ globalized हो चुका है. Today, lives of people around the world are more similar, and whatever we hear as globalization is in fact, as we see in this photo, westernization. So global grand challenges, it is 3 words. What are these kind of challenges? Don't tell me the challenges. Tell me what would make a challenge as a global grand challenge. Electricity, fuel, okay. In some parts it's not a challenge. Okay, education and women empowerment, women rights, suppression of rights. Okay. COVID is a great example of a global challenge. To have this lens, whether this information that I'm getting is really worth it, whether it is true, whether it is authentic, whether it makes a positive impact on my life and the lives of others. Okay, so you're coming from different states, different streams probably, different languages, but you still, all of you are from India. In this session, we'll take a global view. We'll try to understand what is happening with humanity as a whole, and there are some very important challenges which are created by us and which have to be solved by us. So I've subtitled this as an elevated view of the world. So when we are in our day-to-day lives, we have a very microscopic view of what is happening. Are there any bio students here? No bio students. But has anyone used a microscope before? Most of us have used a microscope. So when we are using a microscope, what do we see? We go deep inside a particular thing and we can't see anything else. That's what happens to us when we are operating in our day-to-day lives. Our view becomes very microscopic, which means we are not able to connect one thing to the other. We don't know if this is happening, maybe it is influenced by something else. Our view becomes very boundaried. So sometimes it is a good idea to take a step back and take an elevated view of what's really happening in the world. So this session is about that, and I'll give you some of my thoughts, and then I want it to be very interactive. So how many of you have used an operating system? Just now you said that all of you are carrying a mobile. So a mobile cannot operate without an operating system. Put your hands down. So what is the role of an operating system? What happens because of an operating system? So there are certain, he's using the phrase databases, so it's a technical phrase, but there is certain information that is stored in an operating system, and there is a certain structure. For example, this is a class, there is a certain structure. There are chairs and tables arranged in a particular pattern. So that pattern, that information collectively becomes an operating system. Just like each device has an operating system, this world is like an operating system. So there is a certain behavior, certain pattern, certain phenomena that is happening around us. And just like to be able to use our device, the apps need to have an understanding of its operating system. For us to be functional in this world, it will be good to have an understanding of how this world operates. That's why I call this like an operating system of the world. So why do we need to know this operating system? How will we benefit if we know how this world is operating? To satisfy our curiosity, very good. We want to learn about the world, to get information, okay, good. Socially connected, yeah. It will reduce human effort, okay, let's see. So if we know the operating system, we can predict or prepare ourselves for the future. So there are several benefits to understand how the world is operating. Now let's have a discussion. All of us have heard this term globalization. How many of us believe that we are living in a globalized world? First question is, what aspects of your life are globalized? Just keep listing down. You say we are globalized, right? All of us said that we are globalized. Mention some specific things that this is in my life is globalized. Make a list. So we'll have 3 groups as volunteers who will read out their list. Group 1, then who else? Group 2, Group 3. Okay, Mohit, can you give them the mic one by one? So just read out the list. What aspects of your life are globalized?
First is what is
Just keep reading the list.
fashion.
Okay.
Second is information/news. Third is education. Fourth is socializing, like social media and all. Fifth is diet.
Diet.
Like everybody eats fast food
It's the
and
same
all
thing,
that.
okay.
Culture, language, healthcare, what business slash trading, security, environment, and entertainment.
Okay, very good. Something left? सभी कुछ globalize हो चुका है. Okay, let's hear from your group. Good one, good list. You pass the mic to them.
Tourism also, I think.
Okay.
And
Everyone
apart,
wants to go to Maldives.
yeah,
Okay.
and technology also.
Okay.
Mostly he has
Adding to their
covered.
points. All right.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Okay. Last group.
All right. So we of course got the four basic points of communication, transportation, education, and entertainment. But to build upon that, we also have connectivity with global markets, especially stocks currently. We also have more career options as drop shipping also becomes a huge point part of it.
You think career options are also globalized?
Exactly. Like
Okay.
drop shipping is another part. You can just sit in front of a computer and basically just buy
Okay.
and sell. You also have a better standard of living now, especially with Meta coming into play.
So what should be our standard of living is also globalized. Very interesting.
Yeah. And infotech is also one of the parts.
Tech. Good. So listening to these lists, it gives us an impression that all of our life is globalized. So from what we eat to what kind of fashion we follow to how we speak, the language in which we are interacting. So sitting in India, every participant is in India, and I have to ask: is anyone comfortable? Not comfortable in Hindi? That's a question that I had to ask. Right? Our language has globalized. The tech that we use is globalized. Someone said education is globalized. Why do you say education is globalized? We follow Western education. Okay, so Western education has become the global model. You have some other point? Okay, so our source of information, our source of knowledge has globalized. Okay, so the curriculum is kind of similar. I don't know whether it's similar around the world, but definitely what we are learning in India is has been westernized. Someone also said entertainment. How is entertainment globalized? Okay, so the way we govern ourselves, our legal system, our political system is globalized. Yeah, most countries follow the democracy. Okay, so the form of government is globalized. Yeah, some of you said tech is globalized. Why do you think tech is globalized? Our defense equipment has to be purchased from a certain, certain countries, certain specific countries in the world. Mostly America, Russia, and Israel supply defense equipment to rest of the world. Okay, so tech is also helping us getting connected. Okay, very interesting. So the device as well as the information on the device, both are coming from a certain geography and spreading globally. Very good points. So this gives us an idea of the extent to which our lives have been globalized. So the next natural question is, what caused this? Discuss among your group and then we'll hear you. ऐसा क्यों हुआ? So we could have eaten something else. Why did we all end up eating pastas and burgers? We could have worn something else. We could have spoken in some other language. We could have developed some other device. We could have some other kind of discuss among yourself. Discuss in the group of three, and then we'll discuss. I'll give you a way to think about it. Imagine the lives of your grandparents or great grandparents, and look at your life, and you will see a transition. So think about how that transition happened.
A drastic change was caused by exposure. Children have started detaching themselves from today's culture and have gotten westernized. The exposure coming from social media have basically influenced them to leave their traditional food and clothes for westernized to look cool and for them.
So whatever is our exposure, we want to be that, and that happens to be. Thank you.
Just to gain followers or get more likes, people try to become something that they are not.
Okay. The next group. Which was the next group?
I think with time, our needs grew and the way we solved our problems also changed.
Okay.
I mean,
Hold on. Needs grew.
yes.
Okay.
I mean, looking back, if you had to light a candle, you'd use matches. But now we have lighters, and then again, globalization because there's communication and there's sharing of ideas.
Okay. So that relates to the first point of exposure. Good one. Our needs changed. We'll come to that.
So this is because due to the evolution of time, as the time is constantly changing, so whatever was happening in the previous year is not happening now. So there's a change. Also, there's a change in the mindset of people. What people used to believe in the earlier times is not the same as we compare to the
Okay.
present time.
What's your name?
Avya.
Avya. So it's an interesting point that situations are changing, our belief systems are changing. Now the counter question is, it could have been changing in all parts of the world. Why is it leading to globalization? It could be that things are changing in every place, and yet everything is different. Every place is different. But we have ended up in a situation where most of the things look very similar. So what we are trying to find the answer to this similarity. Which was the other group? आपका भी था?
Also trends and needs of people, because you said education is also globalized. As we are here right now, Indian education was different, like gurukuls and stuff. We used to sit on floors, we used to sit under a tree shade, but now we are sitting in an auditorium shaped like the parliament. So
Shaped like a parliament, okay.
yeah, so education is also globalized, like this one. Yeah.
Okay.
Trends and needs of people.
So our architecture is globalized. Yeah. So there is a sudden explosion of the speed and ease with which communication can flow now. What caused that? Why is that happening? Technology, particularly which technology? So he's saying that in the initial years, ancient world, Italy got the idea of spaghetti from China. Somehow, some people saw noodles from China, and it was traveling through the Silk Route. And the people there thought, let's convert our pasta into a spaghetti form. And that's how it emerged in Italy. So there was a flow of information which was very complex, very slow. In modern times, things happen very fast. Why? Because of what? Because of which technology? But what's the technology? Internet. So internet is, for the first time in the world, there was instant and free transfer of information. Instant and free. Imagine a world where every piece of information traveling from one person to the other takes time. Yeah, sometimes it takes years, sometimes it could take days, hours, minutes, depending on where the two people are. But then there was a world where you could communicate instantly. So when we look at our lives, we take this for granted, but there is a real shift in the way information is transferred from one person to the other in today's world, free and instant. It has, of course, led to globalization. Yeah.
Living standards also.
Living standards. Okay. So some other person also initially said, I think you only said that our standard of living has been globalized. Everyone aspires for the same kind of lifestyle. What is that lifestyle? Luxury. Yeah, but what does tangibly, what does that lifestyle mean? We say our standard of living has been globalized. What does it mean? American dream. A few of you have heard. Okay, for those of you who have not heard, can you help us understand what is this American dream?
After the Industrial Revolution in America, the nuclear family became very popular and the government endorsed this. And eventually that transitioned into the ideal life, which is represented by the American dream.
Very good. What's your name?
Shreya.
Shreya. Excellent point that at some point in history, a particular way of life, which is the American nuclear family. What is a nuclear family? 2 parents, 2 kids.
Yeah.
Is the ideal American family. Now that has changed in America also. But at that point, that became the ideal. And for that family, a house, a car, a dog, right? That became the American dream. And the government, she says the government endorsed it. Basically what it means is the government then put its machinery behind making that possible for all Americans. And that American dream, you're saying, has become kind of universal dream. Everyone wants to aspire for the same thing. So what are the tangible parts of that standard of living? Is there someone who feels that they're not living that kind of a life? There is a standard of living, like we are all agreeing that there is a standard of life that we have ascribed to, we all aspire to. Does someone in this room feel that we're not living that kind of a life? So there is a difference between our reality and our dream. So the question is the dream same for everyone? Even if we don't have it, it could be different. Okay. So for people in this room, and particularly each individual, the question is to you as an individual. All of you feel that you are living the same kind of standard of living. Okay. So Shreya, you also said that colonization led to globalization. How many of us believe that this could be the case? Colonization caused globalization. Okay. Let me show you a picture. So this is from 2018, but every year this thing happens. What is this? Okay, the leaders are there to discuss upon an agenda. So there are 20 countries here out of 200 countries. So it's not as inclusive, but yes, there's something. People look white. Okay, so on one hand, Atharva is saying that there is inclusivity. Shreya is saying people are white, not as inclusive as it can be. Okay, what's your name? Sagnik. So Sagnik is saying they are from different countries, but they don't appear to be from different countries because they're wearing the same thing. So just two people in the whole image, and they are powerful countries. Like there is China, there is Japan, there is Russia, there are powerful European countries. There is Japan, Singapore, perhaps South Korea also is part of G20. So a lot of these countries are there, but other than Arabia and India, we don't see people wearing anything other than the gentleman suit. Actually, everyone is trying to maximize what they can get out of this. So they have to help each other to the extent that they get some benefit. So our contention today in this session is that perhaps diversity has reduced. We may feel that there are different cultures, but it seems that culture is getting homogenized, culture is getting standardized. And that's why I'm showing this image that these people, they do not have any dearth of ideas. They're some of the most powerful people in the world. No dearth of wealth or resources at their disposal. No one will question what they are wearing, but still they end up wearing the same thing. Imagine. So let's take our discussion back to colonization. This is an impact of colonization. Who colonized rest of the world? Imagine if India had colonized rest of the world. What would all of them be wearing today? Kurta, dhoti, something else, suit, the other Indian suit. Yeah. If Japan had colonized the world, Kimino. So that's the impact of colonization on culture. So when she says that colonization has led to globalization, it's one of the most important factor, and then it gets supported or accelerated by the other factors that we saw, that technology has evolved and whoever has the most powerful technology will have the influence. So what was the reason why Europe, and within Europe, UK or Britain particularly, became so powerful? They reached Indian coastline and colonized us. Why did that happen? Okay. They had advanced technology. Okay. So industrial revolution was a result of the resources they received through colonization. They didn't have those resources earlier. So what actually enabled them to colonize in the first place?
So there are multiple technologies, like they had advanced ships that could travel so towards these all countries that they wanted to colonize for their own profit. Like first, the East India Company had approached India, and through that, the British moved forward and colonized complete India
Okay.
by suppressing its culture and
Yeah,
making.
but probably a few hundred people came on ship. There was a country of lakhs of people, yet we got colonized. Why do you think it happened?
Compressed their culture, and they wanted to oppose the Indian culture and put their culture instead.
But why did that happen? Why did we let it happen?
Sir, due to we didn't have unity at all.
We didn't have unity. Okay.
Because if we had unity, we
Okay.
would have been independent from the British in the 1857 revolt only, as none of the revolters were united and were
Okay.
fighting because of their own causes.
Okay. Interesting
Because they were
point.
greedy.
So this travel to Indian coastline started happening when? When did Vasco da Gama arrive? 1498, I think. So 1857 is like 350 years away. So there was a long time from that point when the first ship came to the first revolt. A lot of things were happening in between, and industrial revolution in Europe happened in that time, right? 17th and 18th century. One factor that enabled a few hundred people on ships, you said advanced ships, but particularly weaponry. So when a ship is coming on the coastline and they have guns and you have arrows, you can't win whatever you do. So that's the impact of technology. That's the influence of technology. So on one hand, there is a desire in a European country to colonize rest of the world, and then on top of it, they also have the technology to support it. That's how things start getting a multiplier effect. What were the other points we discussed? How globalization happened? Faster flow of information. So when you have the technology, when you have colonized, so you put up a certain ideal in front of the world. That ideal later became the American dream. And then through the use of technology, you spread that information as fast as possible. So if some trend happens today in Europe or US or wherever, instantly you know that trend. Yeah, right? And instantly we try to follow that trend. We want to be part of that trend. We don't want to be left out. There is instant FOMO. That I also want to do this. ऐसा होता है ना? Give me some examples of some things that you observed on social media and you felt, oh, I also have to do it. Make a recipe, okay? So you saw something like Greek salad, and next day you tell your mom, give me all these things. I also want to make Greek salad, okay? So you want to go to gym because you see someone else posting a reel about going to the gym, and I'll show you one interesting video on that. Origami, okay? So you saw some person doing origami, posting nice video, getting nice likes, and next moment you also want to have origami. What is this? Sketching, okay? Fashion. So what we are wearing is heavily influenced by what we observe on social media. So film festival happens in Cannes, and next day every fashion designer is figuring out how do we replicate this trend in our designs. Music. So what do you mean by that? You want to imitate that same kind of music, you want to listen, okay? So you adapt different genres. To this day, I can't figure out how K-pop became so popular in India. So it was not a thing in my time. When I was in school and college, I had no idea that Korea also has music. Probably didn't have that time, I don't know. And till this day, I have not heard a single K-pop song. But whenever I talk to people in your age group, K-pop is the thing? No. Is it different between males and females? Or that has also changed? You're saying not now. Ab kya hai? अब इंग्लिश पे वापस आ गए चलिए but it was a thing sometime in your life. K-pop became a thing at some point in your life. BTS. Yeah. Okay. So this is how we have come to a very homogenized, standardized, similar kind of life. How much ever we want to say that we have diversity and cultures and this and that, the truth today is our lives are more similar than they have ever been before. Whether we like it or not, whether it's the right thing to have or not, is a different question. I'm just putting a fact in front that today lives of people around the world are more similar, and whatever we hear as globalization is in fact, as we see in this photo, westernization. Something happens in the West, we adapt it in the rest of the world, and we feel we have globalized. If something was happening in Sri Lanka and we adapted it, would you have the same feeling? Now we are globalized. I'm eating a Sri Lankan dish, I'm wearing a Sri Lankan dress. No, you would not have that feeling that I'm globalized. But the moment it comes from the Cannes Film Festival, or from Hollywood or from somewhere in the West, you feel now we are there. So this is the state of the life that all of us have become a part of. Now we'll come to what are the challenges. So till now we understand that we are living in a globalized world, heavily globalized world. What we understand by globalization is basically westernization. And to ourselves, we convince it by saying that this is Modernization. I'm becoming more and more modern, and I must become more and more modern. Actually, if you see, the more modern we become, we are actually becoming more and more colonized. So modernization is westernization, westernization is colonization. So the moment we become more modern, we become more colonial. And we are happily becoming so. So global grand challenges, it is 3 words. What are these kind of challenges? Don't tell me the challenges. Tell me what would make a challenge as a global grand challenge. I am asking you, what would make a challenge as a global grand challenge? There are 3 words. Global. What do we mean by a global challenge? Don't give me examples of the challenge. Tell me what would make a challenge as a global challenge. Very simple. It is faced by almost the entire world. So now tell me some challenges that are not global. Drinking water is a challenge in some parts of the world. In some parts of the world, it is not. But it's electricity, fuel. Okay, in some parts it's not a challenge. In some other part, it is.
The protection of environment.
Protection of environment is a challenge in large parts of the world. Okay, education and women empowerment, women rights. That's a challenge somewhere, but not a challenge somewhere else. Food as in access to food. Okay, some places have sufficient food, some don't have. Dev, you're staying quiet for the whole session. You've done this in the past. You remember it? Okay. So certain kind of discrimination is prevalent in some parts, certain other kind in some other parts. So you understand suppression of rights. Okay. So there are some challenges which are regional or local. The challenges could also be very personal, right? It just impacts me as an individual or my immediate friend circle, my family. But there are some challenges which are global. What are those challenges which are global? COVID is a great example of a global challenge.
Poverty.
Poverty is a global challenge. Okay, yeah, but some places poverty is not there. Conflict and world war. So now we come to an interesting point that what we called as world war was really not happening in all parts of the world. But the countries which were fighting, they felt that is the world. So they called it world war. It could have been called a European war, right? So that's also an impact, a subtle way in which the mind play happens. That we start feeling that is the world. That war influenced, yeah. So challenges can influence other regions. That's why we have to be very cautious, and that's why I'm calling this as the operating system. We have to know what is happening. Use of non-renewable resources is a global challenge. Okay, yeah. Gender-based discrimination is a global challenge. It happens everywhere. No? It happens everywhere? Okay. I don't know. Maybe. Immigration is a global challenge. Brain drain is perhaps US will not feel that it's a challenge. Europe will not feel it's a challenge. We here feel it's a challenge. Communication barrier is not a global challenge.
Can unemployment also be a global
saying?
challenge?
Unemployment. I don't have the current figures, so I don't know whether all countries are facing unemployment. I mean, in India, it seems fine at the moment. Trade barrier. Okay, so we can't trade freely still. Okay.
Climate change.
Climate change is a global challenge, definitely. Addicted. Okay. Very good. So phone addiction. Teenage phone addiction, she's saying, is a global challenge. It is happening everywhere.
Sir, education?
No, it's not happening in your life. Not in Africa. Okay. But it is happening to you. To all of us in this room. Is phone addiction a problem? No. Addiction overall is a problem. Any kind of addiction, to drugs, to alcohol, to smoke, to phone, is a problem. But are people in this room addicted to this phone? If we say we'll give you your phone back on 31st May, is that fine? So these are some examples of global challenges. Now global challenges are those challenges which are not limited to a particular country or region. What is this thing about grand? Big, massive. So now tell me some challenges which are global but not grand. Climate is a grand challenge. It's a very big challenge. Mental health is also a big challenge. We can't say that it's not grand. Addiction again is a big thing. It's related. Mental health and addiction is related. Homelessness is perhaps also not global, but even if it is, in large parts of the world, it is not grand. Good point. inaccessibility to information. Yeah, a global challenge. A lot of people in a lot of parts of the world will not have access to information, but that does not make it a very very big challenge. It can be solved. Poverty is not there in all parts of the world, but wherever it is grand. Healthcare. So what exactly in healthcare? What's the challenge? Okay, access to healthcare or quality of healthcare. You're saying it is a grand challenge or it is not a grand challenge? It is a grand challenge. Okay. Are there examples of things which are global but not grand? Okay, inflation is not a grand challenge. Very good point. So there is some things happen in the economy. कभी inflation होता है, कभी deflation होता है. It does not become a grand challenge unless it leads to a Great Depression. Racism is not a grand challenge. Okay, yeah. So there can be challenges, but they need not be a grand challenge. So I'm really talking of challenges whose impact is of a significant magnitude. And when a challenge is global as well as grand, they really impact rest of the world. Deforestation, part of environment and climate change. Yeah. Natural disasters. Okay, again part of environment and climate change. So now what will happen is you will start observing that a lot of these things are related and they are converting into a large grand challenge. So deforestation, drinking water, natural disasters, all of them are coming together to tell us the grand challenge that we have in terms of ecology. And the third word is challenge. So something is a challenge because we are not capable of dealing with it. Otherwise, it's not a challenge, right? It's just a global grand situation or a global grand opportunity or something else. But we are talking about global grand challenges. So these are really things which impact whole of the world. The impact is of a very high magnitude and we are not capable of solving it. Hydrogen what? Arrangement of hydrogen in periodic table is a global grand challenge. Okay. Cool. So I'll tell you some of the things that we feel are global grand challenges. We feel that most of the things that we are discussing get some subsumed within that large set of challenges. What are the things that come to your mind? Most important challenges. मतलब वो चैलेंज किसी और के अंडर नहीं है, वो अपने आप में ही सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है. वार्मिंग. ओके. So warming, environment, climate change, deforestation, drinking water, waste in ocean, all of that in totality is the challenge of environment. So the environment is a big challenge. We can't say environment is part of another small challenge. What else?
Sir, does solar pollution?
I can't see. Who is there?
Sir, yeah. So does solar pollution come inside of our climate change?
Solar
pollution.
Solar pollution.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So like every time we send a rocket into the space.
Space
like,
pollution. Okay.
Yes. So more than
Space
5
debris.
tons of space pollution is done every time.
Yeah. So that's a part of this challenge of environment. Corruption. Corruption in itself is. Yeah. But what is a large challenge under which things like corruption or inflation or poverty can be subsumed? Economic crisis. Very good. What's your name? Anjanya. You guys have very interesting names. Huh? Atharva, Anjanya, and Sangnik. Who is Sangnik? Sagnik. These are new names. Names की list बनानी चाहिए. What else? So economic challenge and environmental challenge. Two very large challenges which are challenges in their own right. They can't be subsumed inside another challenge. Terrorism is in. So one, terrorism is not a global challenge. It's not happening everywhere in the world. And then it may not be grand. Reducing unemployment in rural areas. So by definition, it becomes a rural challenge, right? It's not a global challenge. Discrimination is part of the larger economic challenge that he mentioned. Is there something else that is a large challenge? Conflict of interest. So we want different things. That also leads to discrimination. Wars. Yeah, so conflict, wars, discrimination. The idea of me being separate from someone else, me being different from someone else. What else is a large challenge? A global grand challenge. Most important thing that comes to your mind. AI. Why is AI a global grand challenge? And people are saying that it's the best thing that has happened to the world. It will take our jobs, okay. It will also create new jobs. Okay, let's see. Let's hope for that. Why is it a challenge? Tell me, what's the challenge through AI? The wrong use of it, but what exactly? What will happen? We are not using our mind. So it is directly impacting human ability to think, to process information. We are trading comfort with capabilities. Lazy people, yeah, very good. So imagine a world where 8 billion lazy people are living and robots and codes are doing rest of the thing. It is a grand challenge. Yeah, I think it's one of the most important challenges that we should apply our mind to solve. So I'll give you my list of the 4 global grand challenges of our times. Ecology, we all discussed. There are all kinds of ecological problems that are happening and they're only increasing. Economy, you mentioned, again a large challenge. So poverty, unemployment, inflation, discrimination, conflicts, trade imbalance. These things happen when there is this grand challenge of economy. The third challenge, which someone pointed out earlier, not as a global grand challenge, but you mentioned as mental health. This is a challenge of socio-psychology. Again, a very, very important challenge, which does not get the limelight because of other things that are happening. But I feel a challenge which your generation will have to face the maximum impact from. What is this challenge of socio-psychology? Okay, a generation gap. We are not able to understand each other. What else? What is this challenge? The mental challenge. Pressure, stress, anxiety. Yeah, what are those problems? Depression, stress, depression, anxiety. Anxiety, yeah. What else? What else is this socio-psychology challenge? Competition. So the feeling that I may lag behind, I may lose, failure, yeah. So certain kind of an identity crisis. Okay. So rather than having our own free and strong opinion, we get influenced by what is happening. Loneliness, very important. Failures. So our resilience, our capacity to deal with failures is reducing. So all of this together is what I term as socio-psychology. Again, a global grand challenge. And the final global grand challenge that I put there is technology, which you mentioned as one part of it, which is AI. But imagine AI coming together with quantum technology, with Internet of Things, with chips in our brains, with machine-produced babies, with our travel to Mars and living there. People are trying to figure out solutions to these challenges, right? So there is a challenge of ecology that our planet is not able to sustain 8 billion people with the kind of demands that we have now. So there is one approach to reduce that pressure, to reduce that demand. There is another approach of finding life on Mars, which is using technology to escape from the problem that we have. Yes, yeah. So 4 global grand challenges, and why I find them extremely interesting is that these challenges have come out of a certain paradox. You understand what's a paradox? Paradox is kind of a conflict, ironic statement. 2 things which are conflicting but happening together. And each of these 4 challenges has a paradox inbuilt into that. So let's look at that one by one. Ecology. Our standard of living has not been better. We all said that we are aspiring for a certain standard of living. When we have that standard of living, the planet is at its worst life. That's a paradox. Challenge of economy. We have not had more wealth than we have today. Globally, the total wealth that humans have has been highest, but it has led to more and more dissatisfaction. Why do we want wealth? We want wealth for our satisfaction, right? So how can more wealth lead to more dissatisfaction? Socio-psychology. 8 billion people, yet loneliness is increasing. So how is it that population is constantly increasing and yet loneliness is always increasing? How is it that we are so connected to each other through social media, yet we feel more and more lonely and depressed and anxious. That's a paradox. And finally, technology. Humans are at the peak of their innovation. We have not have had a better, innovation capacity. Yet we have reached a stage where that technology is threatening our own existence, our own capacity, making us lazy, making us dull, making us not want to do things. Those are the four global grand challenges, and each of those having a paradox inherent into the challenge. That's why I call them grand. It, it's not easy to first understand that, and definitely not easy to do something about it. Good point. So, is it just a diagnosis thing that now we know more people are lonely, but earlier people were not lonely? Or is it that really loneliness has increased? So I feel it has increased. I mean, in our own lives, and without having to measure anything, I feel it is increasing. But I don't want to make any judgment here. These are my opinions, and we must debate them. We must counter check. We must try to find out solutions to these problems. Okay, so now I'll show you some examples. So, to just understand the impact of these global grand challenges. I'll show you a series of videos. Now, this is on ocean waste. How can animals adapt? So sometimes we have seen life, I mean any kind of life, not just animals, but including plants and microorganisms, adapt to external factors. जैसे कभी कभी हमें लगता है कि ये मच्छर मर ही नहीं रहे हैं अभी भी. ऐसा आपको भी लगता है क्या? मतलब हमने वो सब जला दिया है, mosquito repellent. So somehow they've become resilient. So that is how life is. That for some of the things we will become resilient. Some of the things may be so difficult to overcome that the heat is continuously increasing, right? If it goes on like this, there will be some point at which humans will not be able to continue. Right? We are able to resist 45 degree, 46 degree, 50 degrees. For how long can we do that? That's a question. So how soon can we adapt to that? I don't know. So all of us have microplastic. So who was mentioning about space debris? You were mentioning. So space debris, we're launching satellites, it's creating debris. We'll go to moon, there will be debris. We'll go to Mars, there will be debris. Ocean, there is already a large part of debris. In our minds, there is debris. So everywhere there is waste. Waste is basically, because we're consuming more than we need, whatever remains becomes waste, right? And that's what is leaving so much of debris in the world. It's possible. It's possible. So because these things are long range things, right? We can't measure or know their full impact at the time we generate these problems. These problems will, bounce back 10 years, 15 years, 20 years later. We can't say. So that's why it adds to the complexity of these problems. That's why they become even more grand challenges. Okay, so now let's do this exercise. So you were mentioning about this point. Take out your phones. Do this small calculation. How many planets do we need? So it will ask you some questions. What kind of house you live in, how much electricity you consume, how much you travel, what do you eat. Our lifestyle determines how much pressure we create on the planet. So ideally, the answer should be 1, right? Because we just have 1. Your answer is 1. So we all have to know how, I'm forgetting your name again, Anjanya. We have to really meet him and understand how he lives. 3.5 as a global average. Okay, possible. So that's why we're constantly, creating more and more pressure on the planet. So your point, Shreya, is that the Earth is capable of sustaining 3.5 times its capacity. That's the carrying capacity. If everyone lived. Okay. Quite possible, quite likely actually. So one solution is that we change our lifestyle. The other solution is we find more planets. What's a better thing to do? Change our lifestyles, right? So meet Anjanya and then find out how he lives so that we can all move towards one. Let's not do this, but I'll just show you this concept. Have you heard of the concept of food miles? Miles kya hota hai? Miles is the distance, right? Food miles is the distance that food travels to reach us. Whatever we are eating, it has come from some place. So we were talking about how Instagram trends influence our food decisions. What do we eat? So definitely if a trend comes out from a certain place and we try to imitate that, we'll need to get food from some other place, right? If it's not locally available. And through globalization, through trade, through our trends, through choices, through technology, this has just been increasing. So here is an example from a burger of how much distance it has to travel to reach a particular place. Right? It seems to be somewhere in, I don't know where, maybe Britain and Ireland seem closest. So somewhere in UK. So Spain 550 miles, US onion 4,400 miles, Turkish pickle. So food is coming from different places, being assembled together into this burger. What else we consume on a very regular basis that you think is coming from far off? Corn. Corn कहाँ से आ रहा है? नहीं, corn तो हम यहाँ पे उगाते हैं, India में. Yeah, there's a lot of corn here. Mangoes. India sends a lot of mangoes to Canada here. So I recently had a friend from Luxembourg. He came on breakfast. I offered him coffee. He said, I'll have mango shake. Because there's no mango there. He wants to eat mango here. What do you eat on a very regular basis that you feel is coming from a far off place? Chocolates. Yeah. You don't eat chocolates. Very good. Chocolates are actually, I don't know whether I'll cover that concept of hidden water. Chocolates are extremely bad for the planet. They consume so much of water to to be made. So if you can give up on chocolate, you will reach one planet per person. What else? What else do you consume which you feel is coming from a long distance? Water. Water is available. There are some countries in which water comes from far off, but generally, thankfully, water is here, and we should try to retain this situation where water is locally available. Otherwise, there will be huge crisis. There will be water war. Is there anything else that is coming from far off? Avocado, yeah. Yeah, so these fancy vegetables which we eat because of certain trends, and because also, have you ever consulted a dietitian? Have you or someone in your family consulted a dietitian? They will tell you some fancy things. Avocado will be a part of that. No, what was there? Chia seeds. What else? Salmon. Dietitian tells you salmon to eat for protein. Which one? Whey protein. What is that? Powder. That's synthetic. I don't know whether that would be made in a factory. Kiwi. Yeah, exotic fruits. Yeah, preservatives. Okay, so we get an idea of how our food, just what we eat, is creating an impact on the planet. It's damaging the planet. That's why in the earlier times it was a default situation that we'll eat whatever is grown locally. Grow locally, eat locally. That was a default lifestyle. Most of the things were available within a village kind of an environment. Our milk, our fruits, vegetables, most of the things, it was kind of self-sustained. Minimum impact on the planet, because food does not have to be transported from one place to the other. So it remains fresh and it does not require energy to get transported. But when on a day-to-day basis, 8 billion people are eating things that are grown somewhere else, imagine the kind of impact it is leaving on the planet. Okay, let's look at the challenge of social psychology, and this will relate to one of our earlier discussions. We are attempting to be a person we are not. It says real life versus Insta life. Real life versus real life. So that's the gym reels that you're talking about, right? We do something, we try to imitate, we try to take inspiration. Social media is fake. We are on it, and it's influencing our lives, right? On a minute-to-minute basis, it's influencing our lives, and that's accelerating this challenge of social psychology, because we are becoming more and more fake as people, right? Our choices, our habits, our decisions, our lifestyle is determined by fakeness. That's the nature of the world we are living in. Humans are hooked, machines are learning. That's how machines are becoming more and more capable, right? Basically, now we have become resources for the machine. Whatever we are doing is becoming data for the machine, and that's how machine is learning. We have made it. So there will be some people who will make the machines. They will be extremely powerful. That's a new form of very, very small, tiny population. They will. So I say that they will be the modern colonizers. But large part of the population who is not really making these machines will be extremely dependent on that. So I will not scare you. Abhi aap chote ho. I'll say future is bright, but when you grow up a little more, then we'll have this discussion. As technology is advancing, one of the advanced technologies that people are working on is age enhancement, anti-aging technology. So humans have this desire to live more, live better, consume more. So the goal of technology is to reduce that defect from the birth itself. They can. That's that. I mean, they want to. That's the technological research that is happening. That how can people live more without diseases? So live healthier, live longer, live with more resources, and if there is any kind of a medical issue, treat it in the before birth itself, in the gene itself. Yeah. So CRISPR is the gene technology. It's gene editing. So we all are made of certain genes, and people are working on technology to really edit that gene, just like we edit a piece of document or a photo. Can we edit a gene? Which means first we remove any defect. If there is Down syndrome, if there is a potential of cancer, this, that, can we remove that? And then can we put in some qualities that we want? Such kind of a height, this kind of a nose feature, this, that. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is, we're trying to do it to people now. So although our birth rate is decreasing, the less people are, the fertility rate, how many people get born every 1,000 people, that is reducing, but people's age is increasing. So at any point of time, there will be more people living on the planet with higher demands and a better, fit and a fitter body. So imagine the kind of pressure it will put on the planet. So what are the main things that you want to take away from this session? Give me some points. What would be your key takeaways? Just in 2-3 minutes, we'll wrap it up. We discussed a lot of things. Yeah. Globalization cannot be stopped. It's a force we are not capable of dealing with. We learned the 4 global grand challenges. What are those challenges? Ecology, economy, social psychology, and technology. There could be more. I mean, these are the things that I feel when I put a lot of mind behind it. What we feel is globalization or modernization is just westernization. It's not always good. What is not always good? Globalization is not always good. Okay. So this is the operating system. This is a context that we try to set for you. It will help you absorb information. And when you absorb information, both during the summer school and in rest of your life, try to have this lens, whether this information that I'm getting is really worth it, whether it is true, whether it is authentic, whether it makes a positive impact on my life and the lives of others. So use this context, and I hope that some of you would want to solve these challenges when you grow up. That is my intention and hope and request from all of you. It was a great time interacting with everyone. You're a great bunch. All the best for rest of the summer school.